Welcome to your deep dive Wortcunning. This one's curated just for you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's all about trees and herbs, magic, mystery, that whole thing.
Right.
We'll be drawing from Viridarium Umbris. That's The Pleasure Garden of Shadow by Daniel Schulke. So get ready to unlock some hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
Explore the Greenwood and see how this ancient practice might still be relevant for us today, you know?
You know what I find fascinating is how wortcunning really brings together knowledge of the natural world with magic.
Right.
And a really deep connection to folklore.
Yeah.
All these aspects of life, they weren't always separate, were they?
That's true. It really wasn't. It's like they saw the magic in nature itself, not as something, separate.
Yeah. The source material, it even mentions how ancient people, they considered plant knowledge a divine gift.
Oh, wow.
Passed down from beings like the Watchers,
Okay.
fallen angels, even nymphs.
Wow. Learning from mythical beings, huh? That's a bit different than my botany class.
It is quite a bit.
Oh.
Makes you think about how the way we view and interact with nature has changed, doesn't it?
For sure.
Yeah, Schulke, he highlights this shift with the rise of monotheism.
Okay.
There was this move away from, like, venerating those nature spirits to almost demonizing them.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
The old gods, the spirits, they became associated with the devil.
So instead of being teachers, they became something to fear.
Right.
That's quite a contrast.
Yeah.
But how did Wortcunning survive all of that, you know?
Well, that's the really incredible part.
Okay.
It adapted.
Okay.
Yeah, it wove in elements of folk magic,
Right.
witchcraft, and a strong emphasis on, like, personal practice.
Okay.
And that's where the Greenwood comes in.
Okay. The Greenwood.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty mystical.
It is. Think of it as like the heart of wortcunning,
Okay.
but not just a physical forest. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual and magical realm.
Gotcha.
Embodies the essence of trees and herbs.
Okay.
The natural, the magical, and the mystical all together.
So like a hidden dimension within nature itself.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And at its heart, at the heart of the Greenwood, you find the Green Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like a guardian spirit, a symbol of this realm.
Okay.
Think of him as representing the cyclical nature of, life, death, and rebirth always playing out in nature.
Okay. I'm starting to get a sense of this interconnectedness.
Yeah.
What is the practitioner's role in all of this? Are
Yeah.
they just, passively observing
No.
or actively participating with this Greenwood?
Definitely active.
Yeah.
Tending the garden is like a fundamental practice in wortcunning.
Right.
But it's not just about, like, aesthetics or growing your vegetables.
Right.
It's about actively cultivating a relationship
Right.
with the Greenwood, connecting with the spirits of the plants.
So there's a deeper layer to it than just planting, some pretty flowers.
Exactly. Schulke even talks about this. He calls it accessing the hidden virtue
Okay.
of plants through tending to them.
Right.
It's the idea that the true power of a plant, it doesn't just lie in its physical properties, but also in its spiritual essence.
Okay. How do you unlock that hidden virtue?
Right.
Is it like a secret code or something?
Not quite a code, but it's about approach
Okay.
and intention.
Right.
The idea is that this hidden power, you can only access it through a combination of practical knowledge,
Yeah.
genuine devotion, and sincere intention.
Okay.
It's not something you can force or demand. It's a gift, freely given, when you approach the Greenwood with the right heart.
So it's about building a relationship, not exploiting
Yeah.
or manipulating.
Exactly. It's a partnership. And understanding the cyclical nature of the Greenwood is key.
Okay.
In the book, it's referred to as the Pleasure Garden of Shadow.
Right.
It's a nice name, isn't it?
Yeah.
It reflects that balance between light and dark,
Right.
growth and decay,
Yeah.
always at play in nature.
It's like the ebb and flow, the constant change. We
Yeah.
see it all around us.
Right.
How does a practitioner actually engage with this energy? Do they just go for a walk in the woods and hope for the best?
Well, Schulke talks about something called geniloci.
Okay.
These are individual spirits that reside within specific trees or locations.
Wait, so each tree has its own spirit.
Yes.
Like if I walk into a forest, I'm surrounded
Yes.
by these unique beings.
And the practitioner, he can interact with them
Wow.
to gain knowledge and power.
That's incredible. So how do you even begin to communicate with the tree spirit?
Well, approaching with respect
Right.
and a sense of reciprocity. That's essential.
Okay.
Schulke, he specifically warns against going in with greed. or entitlement.
Right.
Remember, this is about building a relationship, a mutual exchange of energy and knowledge.
Do you ever stop and think about the spirit that might reside in the trees in your backyard?
I do now. Yeah. And speaking of spirits, the book also mentions working with fairies as well,
Okay.
which are seen as these ancient beings connected to the Greenwood.
Okay. So now we're venturing into folklore and fairy tale,
Right.
all that.
But remember, these aren't the Disney-fied versions of fairies.
Right. Right.
These are powerful ancient beings.
Right.
They demand respect. Approaching them, it requires a certain level of understanding and caution.
Right. It's like you don't just barge into someone's home
Right.
and demand their secrets. Right.
Yeah.
There are ways to approach,
Yes?
ways to show respect, all that.
Yes, there are. So how does a practitioner actually begin to connect with these spirits, whether it's the genie loci or the fairies?
Yeah.
Well, Schulke describes this technique. He calls it praxis silva.
Okay.
Uses meditation and heightened sensory awareness
Okay.
to access the Greenwood.
So like a guided meditation. But instead of picturing a beach,
Right.
you're going deep into the Greenwood.
Exactly. Using your senses as your guide. Okay, imagine finding a shaded spot under a tree.
Right.
Using that space as a gateway into the spiritual dimension of the Greenwood.
Yeah.
He also talks about assuming what he calls the mantles of shadow and light.
Mantles of shadow and light.
Yes.
Okay. That sounds pretty intense. What does that even mean?
Well, think of it as embodying the dualistic nature
Okay.
of the Greenwood itself.
Right.
The shadow represents like the mysteries,
Right.
the unknown, the darker aspects of nature. The light represents growth, vitality, and spiritual illumination.
Okay.
It's about finding balance between these forces within yourself.
So it's not about choosing one or the other,
Right.
but recognizing that both are essential to the whole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the intention you bring to this practice, it's everything.
Yeah.
Schulke calls it the language of the garden.
Okay.
He emphasizes that emotions, particularly love and respect
Yeah.
for the spirits you're trying to connect with,
Right.
those are key.
It's about establishing a genuine connection, not trying to manipulate nature for your own selfish gain.
It's like you can't fake it, can you? The Greenwood can sense whether you're being sincere or not.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And when that sincerity is there, you can potentially access something called the hidden fruit,
Okay.
which is a deeper understanding
Okay.
of the mysteries of the Greenwood.
Right.
It's a spiritual blessing, freely given,
Okay.
that can lead to profound insight and transformation.
Wow. That sounds like a pretty incredible reward.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It speaks to that transformative power of wortcunning itself,
Right.
which goes way beyond just, acquiring knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a profound shift in consciousness,
Right.
a way of seeing and being in the world that recognizes the sacredness of nature and our interconnectedness with all things.
I'm already feeling like I need to go find a tree to sit under and try out some of this Praxis Silva. But before you do, what about the practical side of things? Do wortcunning practitioners use any specific tools
They do.
to help them connect with the Greenwood?
Two of the most important ones are the black-hilted knife
Okay.
and the holy rood
Okay.
or wand.
Okay. A knife and a wand.
Yeah.
Now things are getting really interesting.
The black-hilted knife, despite its name, it isn't used for harming anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's actually a ritual tool used to symbolically separate the sacred from the profane.
Okay.
Think of it as cutting away anything that's not serving you, anything that's blocking you from connecting with the true essence of the Greenwood.
So it's about creating a clear distinction.
Yes.
Like a boundary between the mundane and the magical.
Exactly. And the rood or wand is seen as a conduit of spirit.
Okay.
It's used to direct energy, draw down power, communicate with the spirits of the Greenwood.
So it's like an antenna,
Yeah.
amplifying and channeling the practitioner's intentions.
Perfect way to put it. It acts as an extension of their will, allowing them to interact with the subtle energies of the Greenwood more effectively.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get a grasp on the basics here. We've got the Greenwood, the spirits within it,
Right.
the intention and respect needed to approach them,
Right.
and some of the tools used to connect with them. What's next on our journey, into the world of wortcunning?
Now that we've laid the groundwork, It's time to meet some of the key players. In this tradition, the trees themselves.
Okay,
Each one has its own unique personality, its own story, and its own lessons to teach.
let's do it. I'm ready to dive into the forest
Yeah?
and discover what wisdom these ancient beings hold. All right, we're back, ready to meet the trees.
Okay.
It's one thing to, talk about the Greenwood in a general sense, but I'm curious to learn about the specific powers and personalities of these arboreal allies.
I like how you use the word allies. That's a key point in wortcunning.
Yeah.
Seeing these trees not just as, passive objects, but as active participants in the magical workings.
Yeah, it makes sense given everything we've learned about genealogy and the spirits residing within them, right?
Right.
So where do we start? Which tree gets the honor of being our first introduction?
Well, let's start with the mighty oak,
Okay.
a tree that's often associated with strength, wisdom, protection.
Oh, the oak, a classic symbol of power. And endurance, I can already see why it would be important in wortcunning.
Absolutely. Schulke, he describes the oak as the door to the wild,
Okay.
like a gateway into the deeper mysteries of the Greenwood.
Right.
It embodies that divine masculine energy, representing courage, resilience, a connection to the ancient forces of nature.
So working with the oak could be about tapping into that inner strength and resilience.
Exactly. Grounding yourself, connecting with your roots,
Right.
finding that unshakable core within.
Okay. That's a powerful image. What about the willow?
Okay.
I always think of willows as being, very graceful
Uh-huh.
and flowing, almost ethereal.
You're picking up on the energy beautifully.
Yeah.
The willow, in contrast to the oak, is all about fluidity, adaptability, and intuition
Okay.
associated with the element of water
Right.
and the lunar energies,
Yeah.
embodying the divine feminine.
It makes me think about going with the flow, being adaptable to change, trusting your intuition.
Absolutely. The willow, it teaches us about surrendering to those natural rhythms of life, embracing our emotions,
Right.
trusting the whispers of our inner wisdom.
Okay, so we have the strength and stability of the oak
Right.
and the fluidity and intuition of the willow. What other personalities can we find in the Greenwood?
Well, there's the blackthorn,
Okay.
a tree that's often misunderstood because of its thorny nature, but it's a powerful protector. Represents boundaries, resilience, the ability to overcome obstacles.
Interesting. So it's not afraid to be a little prickly.
Not at all. The blackthorn, it teaches us about setting healthy boundaries, protecting what's sacred to us, and not being afraid to face our shadows.
It sounds like a valuable ally, even if it's not the most cuddly tree in the forest.
Right.
What about a tree that's maybe a bit more approachable?
How about the rowan? Known for its protective qualities, its ability to ward off negativity, and its connection to the realm of fairy.
Oh yes, the rowan. I've heard that it's often planted near homes for protection.
Exactly. It's seen as a guardian tree, a bridge between the worlds, and a powerful ally for anyone seeking to work with the subtle energies of the Greenwood.
This is fascinating. It's like each tree has its own unique energy signature.
Got
Its own set of lessons to teach us.
It's the beauty of wortcunning. It invites us to see the natural world with new eyes,
Right.
to recognize the individual personalities and powers of the plants and trees around us.
Okay, so now that we've met some of the trees, can we go back to those tools for a minute?
Sure.
I'm curious to know how they're actually used in practice. Do you carve the oak with the black-hilted knife or something?
Not quite. Remember, the black-hilted knife, it's primarily a ritual tool,
Right.
used for symbolic purposes.
Right.
But you can certainly use it to harvest wood from a tree if you're going to make a wand or another magical tool.
Okay, so the tools aren't necessarily used directly on the trees,
Right.
but rather as a way to connect with their energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might use the wand to direct energy toward a tree,
Right.
or to draw down its power.
Right.
into a ritual, into a spell.
Yeah.
And remember, the intention you bring to these practices, it's everything.
Right. It's all about that deep respect.
Yeah.
And connection.
It is. And there are other tools that wortcunning practitioners use to create and maintain sacred space within the Greenwood.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about the hedge earlier?
Yes, that magical boundary that separates the garden from the wild. It's starting to feel like a pretty key concept.
It is. And maintaining the integrity of the hedge, that's crucial.
Okay.
Okay. It protects the practitioner's sacred space from unwanted energies, creates a clear boundary between between the cultivated world and the untamed wilderness.
So it's like creating a safe and contained environment.
Yes.
For magical workings.
Exactly. Schulke talks about using tools like blessed salt and blessed water to purify and protect a hedge.
Okay, now we're back to those blessed items again. Can you remind me how they're made?
Of course. Blessed salt is simply salt that's been consecrated. Yeah. Typically using prayers and invocations. The idea is to imbue it with a protective power that can ward off negative energies.
So it's not just for seasoning your food anymore.
Not in this context.
Right. Okay.
And blessed water is created in a similar way.
Okay.
Using water that's collected from a natural source like a spring or a river.
Okay.
And then infusing it with prayers and intention.
So it's like taking something ordinary and imbuing it with a sacred purpose.
Exactly.
Okay.
And these blessed items, they're used in a variety of ways in wortcunning.
Right.
Including purifying the hedge.
So you might sprinkle the blessed salt around the perimeter of your garden.
Precisely. Schulke describes this ritual where the practitioner, he walks the perimeter of the hedge.
Right.
Scattering salt. Reciting incantations to invoke the protection of the spirits of place. It's about creating a magical barrier that keeps unwanted energies at bay.
Okay. Starting to get a sense of how seriously wortcunning practitioners take their hedge maintenance.
They do. It's a vital aspect of the practice. And within the hedge, the practitioner, he might also create a smaller, more personal sacred space known as the plot.
Oh, okay. Back to the plot. We touched upon it earlier. Can you remind me of its significance?
Think of the plot as your personal sanctuary within the Greenwood.
Okay.
A space that's dedicated to your magical practice.
Okay.
It's where you might perform rituals, work with the spirits of the trees, or simply meditate and connect with the energies of nature.
So it's like a mini Greenwood contained within the larger hedge.
A great way to put it. And like the hedge, the plot needs to be properly purified and consecrated before it can be used for magical workings.
So what does that look like? More blessed salt and water?
Those can certainly be used. But Schulke also talks about the importance of using specific herbs for purification.
Oh, so like burning sage.
Similar concept.
Yeah.
But in wortcunning, the practitioner, he might choose specific herbs based on their correspondences to purification and banishment.
Okay, so tell me about some of these purification herbs.
Well, vervain is a classic choice.
Okay.
A powerful herb that's been associated with protection and purification for centuries.
Vervain, I'm making a note of that one. What else?
Rue is another one that's often used for banishing negativity.
Okay.
It has a very strong scent, said to be particularly effective for warding off harmful spirits.
Rue. I think I've smelled that before. It's pretty intense.
It is. And that strong scent is part of its power.
Okay.
You might burn these herbs within the plot as a way to cleanse the space, create a sacred atmosphere. So
it's like a magical smoke cleanse for your sacred space.
Exactly.
What happens after purification?
The next step is consecration.
Okay.
Which is essentially dedicating the plot to a specific purpose.
Okay.
Aligning the space with your magical intentions.
Right.
Invoking the blessings of the spirits of place.
So it's about making it your own.
Yes.
Setting the stage for your magical workings.
Exactly. And just as there are specific herbs for purification, there are also specific herbs for consecration.
Okay.
Rosemary is a classic choice, representing remembrance,
Clarity.
spiritual connection.
That's very interesting. I always associate that with cooking.
Right.
But it makes sense that it would have a deeper meaning in wortcunning.
It does. And lavender's another popular choice.
Okay.
Known for its calming and soothing properties. It's about creating a peaceful and harmonious atmosphere within the plot, inviting in those positive energies.
It's like creating a magical aromatherapy session for your sacred space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you might also incorporate personal talismans, crystals, other objects that hold significance for you.
Right.
Make it a space that truly reflects your individual path.
So the plot becomes a reflection of the practitioner's own unique connection to the Greenwood.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a microcosm of that larger interconnected web of energy. And once it's set up, it can be used for a variety of purposes, from performing rituals to simply sitting in quiet contemplation.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I could actually create a plot myself.
Good.
But what about those rituals you mentioned? What kinds of things might a wortcunning practitioner do within their plot?
Well, Schulke, he emphasizes the importance of working with the elements in wortcunning.
Right.
So a ritual might involve invoking the power of water for healing, or calling upon the energy of fire for protection.
Okay, we've talked about the elements in a general sense, but how does that actually work in practice?
Right. Imagine, for example, that you want to perform a ritual for healing.
Okay.
You might gather some blessed water from a sacred spring, stand within your plot, and recite incantations while holding the water, visualizing it being infused with healing energy.
So the water acts as a conduit.
Yeah.
For the healing energy.
Exactly. And the plot, being a purified and consecrated space, it acts as an amplifier.
Right.
Makes the ritual more potent.
Fascinating. And what about working with fire?
Right.
Does that involve building a big bonfire within your plot?
Not necessarily. It could be as simple as lighting a candle.
Okay.
That's been infused with the specific herbs. Reciting incantations to invoke the element of fire for protection.
Okay. So fire magic doesn't have to be dramatic or destructive. It can be subtle and focused.
Exactly. Wortcunning is all about working with those subtle energies of nature, understanding their nuances, using them for specific purposes.
So it's like learning a whole new language.
It is.
The language of the Greenwood.
Yes. And that language, it encompasses not just the plants and the trees, but also the tools, the rituals, the spirits that dwell within this magical realm.
This is all so intriguing. And speaking of tools, I remember you mentioned the holy rood or wands earlier. Does that play a specific role within the plot?
It does. The wand is seen as a conduit of spirit, an extension of the practitioner's will. It can be used to cast a circle of protection around the plot, to direct energy towards a specific goal, or to draw down power from the heavens.
So it's like a magical conductor's baton, directing the energies of the Greenwood.
A wonderful analogy. And the type of wood the wand is made from can also influence its properties.
Okay.
So, for example, an oak wand might be used for workings related to strength and protection, while a willow wand might be more suited for healing and divination.
So choosing the right wood for your wand is an important consideration.
Absolutely. It's a very personal decision, based on your individual needs and magical goals.
Okay, definitely adding wand making to my to-do list.
Excellent. It's a rewarding process, connecting with the spirit of the tree, crafting a tool that will serve you well in your practice. But remember, the most important tool is your own intention. And connection to the Greenwood.
Right. The tools are simply extensions of that deeper connection. So we've talked about purification, consecration, working with the elements,
Right.
and the use of tools within the plot. Is there anything else essential to know about this sacred space?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the plot, it's not just a physical location.
Okay.
It's a state of mind, a way of being. It's about cultivating that sense of reverence, respect, and connection wherever you go within the Greenwood.
So even if I'm not, physically within my designated plot, I can still carry that energy and intention with me.
Exactly. It's about bringing that awareness and that connection to every interaction you have with nature.
Okay, I'm starting to see how wortcunning goes far beyond just a set of techniques. It's a whole way of relating to the world, a way of seeing the magic that's all around us.
You're getting it. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of wortcunning, the creation and use of charms and talismans.
Oh yes, charms and talismans. Everyone loves a good charm. Tell me more.
It's essentially an object that's imbued with magical power for a specific purpose.
So like a lucky rabbit's foot.
Well, that's a popular example.
Yeah.
But in wortcunning, charms are often created using natural materials like herbs, stones, and wood.
Okay, so what kind of charms might a wortcunning practitioner create?
It really depends on their intention.
Right.
They might create a charm for protection,
Right.
for healing,
Yeah.
attracting love, or any other purpose they desire.
So like a charm to help you ace a job interview.
Exactly. Or a charm to protect your home from harm.
Right.
Or to bring good luck on a journey.
So how are these charms actually made? Is it just about like tying a pretty ribbon around a piece of wood?
There's a bit more to it than that. It involves carefully selecting
Okay.
the right materials
Yeah.
based on their correspondences, charging them with your intention, often incorporating specific rituals
Right.
and incantations
Right.
to empower them.
So it's a very intentional process, drawing upon the practitioner's knowledge of plant lore, symbolism, and the language of the spirits.
Exactly. It's a way of weaving magic into everyday objects, imbuing them with the power to support our intentions.
And what about talismans? How are they different from charms?
A talisman is similar to a charm, but it's often more complex
Okay.
and intricate
Yeah.
in its creation.
Okay.
It might be engraved with specific symbols or runes.
Okay.
And it might be consecrated using more elaborate rituals.
So it's like a charm, but on a grander scale.
You could say that. Talismans are often seen as powerful tools for protection, healing, and attracting luck and success.
It makes you wonder what kind of charms and talismans people might have carried with them, in the past. It's like a glimpse into their hopes and fears.
It is. These objects, they offer a fascinating window into the beliefs and practices of our ancestors.
Right.
And they remind us that the desire to connect with magic and create a sense of empowerment and protection is something that's been with us for a very, very long time.
Okay, so we got charms, talismans. What other kinds of magic can we explore within the realm of wortcunning? Is it all about individual practice, or are there group rituals as well?
Well, wortcunning is often a solitary practice, but there are certainly aspects of it that can be done in groups. And one area that Schulke touches upon that lends itself well to group work is the celebration of the seasons, honoring the cycles of nature.
Oh, so like celebrating the solstices and equinoxes.
Exactly. These seasonal markers, they're seen as powerful times
Right.
for connecting with the energies of the Greenwood and for performing rituals that align with the rhythms of nature.
So you might gather with a group of like-minded folks
Right.
within a hedge and perform a ritual to celebrate the summer solstice, for example.
Exactly. It's a way of honoring the turning of the wheel of the year,
Okay.
acknowledging those cycles of growth, abundance,
Right.
death,
Right.
and rebirth that are constantly playing out in nature.
It's like a way of staying in tune with the heartbeat of the earth.
Yes. And these group rituals, they can be a powerful way to build community. to share knowledge
Right.
and to deepen your connection to the Greenwood.
This is all so fascinating. It's really starting to paint a picture of wortcunning as a holistic practice, encompassing everything from solitary meditation to group celebrations. But I'm curious to know more about the specific types of magic that are practiced. We talked about charms and talismans.
Right.
But what about things like spell casting or divination?
Well, wortcunning encompasses a wide range of magical practices.
Right.
And one area that Schulke he explores in detail is the art of divination.
Okay.
Which is essentially seeking knowledge and guidance
Right.
from the spirits.
Okay. Divination. So this is about getting insights into the future or uncovering hidden knowledge.
Exactly. And wortcunning practitioners, they might utilize various methods of divination, including scrying, reading the patterns of nature, interpreting dreams, casting lots.
Okay. Can you give me some examples of what that might look like in practice?
Sure. Let's say you're facing a difficult decision.
Okay.
A wortcunning practitioner might go into the Greenwood,
Right.
find a quiet spot within their hedge, perform a scrying ritual using a bowl of water or a dark mirror.
Right.
They would gaze into the reflective surface, allow their mind to quiet, and seek guidance from the spirits.
So it's about using these tools as a way to connect with the unseen realms.
Yes.
And to receive intuitive insights.
Exactly. And another method might involve going for a walk in the woods.
Okay.
Paying attention to the signs and symbols that nature presents, the flight of birds, the patterns of the clouds, the way the wind rustles the leaves.
Right.
These can all be seen as messages from the spirits offering guidance and insight.
It's like learning to read the language of nature, seeing the hidden messages all around us.
Exactly. And wortcunning also encompasses the art of spellcraft.
Okay.
Which is essentially directing energy to bring about a specific outcome.
Okay, so this is what most people think of when they hear the word magic.
Right.
Casting spells.
Yes. But in wortcunning, spellcasting is always done with a deep respect
Right.
for the natural world, and with the understanding that we're working in partnership with the spirits.
So it's not about trying to control or manipulate,
Right.
but rather about aligning your will with the energies of the Greenwood to bring about positive change.
Exactly. And a wortcunning spell, it might involve the use of herbs,
Right.
charms,
Right.
incantations,
Right.
and specific rituals
Okay.
designed to amplify
Right.
and direct the practitioner's intention.
Can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Sure. Let's say you want to create a spell for healing.
Okay.
You might gather specific herbs known for their healing properties.
Right.
Create a charm using those herbs
Okay.
and other natural materials.
Okay.
And then perform a ritual within your plot.
Right.
Reciting incantations,
Yeah.
visualizing the healing energy flowing to the person in need.
So it's a very hands-on approach, combining physical actions with mental focus.
Right.
And intention.
Exactly. And wortcunning teaches us that magic is not something that's separate
Right.
from us, but rather something that flows through us and connects us to the web of life.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the hedge, the
Right.
plot, working with the elements,
Sure.
charms, and talismans. Even divination and spellcraft. It's amazing to see how all of these pieces fit together to create this rich and multifaceted tradition.
It is. And we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
There's so much more to explore, from the specific properties of different herbs and trees to the intricacies of working with the fairy realm.
Sounds like a lifetime of study.
It is.
But I'm definitely feeling inspired to keep learning and exploring. So what's next on our journey?
Well, since we've been talking so much about the importance of aligning
Right.
with the cycles of nature, I think it's time to delve a bit deeper into the role of the seasons in wortcunning, and how these seasonal markers can enhance our magical practice.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Let's tune into the rhythm of the Greenwood and discover how we can harness the power of the seasons. All right, we're back, and I'm ready to dive into this next layer of wortcunning, the role of the seasons.
Okay.
It makes sense that a practice so deeply connected to nature would place a lot of importance on these natural cycles, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about understanding the individual trees and the herbs. It's about understanding how they fit into that larger web of life, that the ebb and flow of energy that unfolds throughout the year.
So each season brings its own unique energy and opportunities for magical practice.
Exactly. Schulke talks about this in terms of the wheel of the year, a cycle that encompasses the solstices, the equinoxes, and the various cross-quarter days that mark the transitions between the seasons.
Okay, the wheel of the year sounds pretty mystical.
It is.
Yeah, break it down for me. How does this wheel actually work?
Imagine a wheel divided into 8 segments.
Okay.
Each one representing a specific point in the yearly cycle. You have the 2 solstices, which mark the longest and shortest days of the year, the summer solstice and the winter solstice.
Okay, so those are like the peak points of light and darkness.
Exactly. And then you have the 2 equinoxes. They mark the days when day and night are equal in length. You have the spring equinox and the autumn equinox.
So those represent balance, a time of transition.
Yes.
Between the extremes of light and dark.
You got it. And then you have the 4 cross-quarter days. They fall roughly halfway between the solstices and the equinoxes.
Right.
They're often associated with fire festivals like Beltane and Llamas, or harvest celebrations like Lughnasadh and Samhain.
Okay, so each of these points on the wheel of the year holds a specific significance, both in terms of the natural world.
Yes.
And in terms of magical practice.
Exactly. And wortcunning practitioners might perform specific rituals or work with particular herbs and trees that correspond to the energies of each season.
Okay. I'm starting to get a sense of how this all ties together. Can you give me some examples of how the seasons might be incorporated into wortcunning practice?
Sure. Let's start with spring, a time of new beginnings, growth, and fertility.
Right.
During this time, a wortcunning practitioner, he might focus on working with herbs like rosemary and lavender, which are associated with purification and renewal.
So it's about aligning your magic with the natural energies that are already present in the environment.
Exactly. And a spring ritual, it might involve planting seeds, tending to the garden, or performing a cleansing ceremony to clear away any stagnant energy from the winter months.
It's like a fresh start for the natural world and for your own personal practice.
Yes. And as we move into summer, the energy shifts to one of abundance, vitality, and celebration.
Okay.
This is the time of the summer solstice, when the sun is at its peak. And it's a powerful time for rituals focused on growth, prosperity, and joy.
So you might perform a ritual to celebrate the abundance of nature and to kind of draw that energy into your own life.
Exactly. And summer is a good time for working with herbs like St. John's wort and chamomile, which are associated with the sun's energy and with promoting happiness and well-being.
It's interesting to see how the magical properties of the herbs tie into the themes of each season. What happens as we move into autumn?
Autumn is a time of harvest, gratitude, and letting go. the days grow shorter,
Right.
the leaves begin to fall, and there's a sense of preparing for the inward journey of winter.
It's like a time for taking stock of what you've accomplished during the year, and for releasing anything that's no longer serving you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And wortcunning practitioners might use this time for rituals focused on gratitude,
Right.
on letting go of old patterns, and on preparing for the darker months ahead.
Well, what kind of herbs would be associated with autumn?
Herbs like mugwort and yarrow, they're often used during this time.
Okay.
Mugwort is known for its protective qualities
Right.
and its ability to enhance intuition, while yarrow is associated with healing and grounding.
Okay, so there's a sense of drawing inward, of seeking protection and grounding as we move towards winter. What happens during the winter months?
Winter is a time of rest, reflection, and introspection. It's the darkest time of year when nature seems to slumber. But it's also a time of great potential, a time for going within, connecting with your inner wisdom.
So it's not necessarily a time for outward action, but rather for inward focus and contemplation.
Exactly. And wortcunning practitioners might use this time for divination, for dream work, or for performing rituals focused on personal growth and transformation.
Like going into hibernation, allowing yourself to recharge,
Right.
and to connect with the deeper mysteries of the Greenwood.
Yes. And herbs like rosemary and pine,
Yeah.
they're often used during this time, representing purification, protection, and the enduring spirit of life that persists even through the darkest months.
This is all so fascinating. It's amazing to see how the Wheel of the Year provides a framework for aligning your magical practice with the rhythms of nature. But I'm curious to know more about how this all ties into the concept of the Greenwood as a threefold connection: the natural, the magical, and the mystical. We talked about this briefly earlier, but I'd love to explore it in more depth.
You know, that threefold connection is really at the heart of wortcunning.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that these aspects of life, they're not separate, but rather interwoven,
Yeah.
just like the threads of a tapestry.
Okay. So break it down for me. How do these three threads come together?
Well, the first thread is natural knowledge.
Yeah.
This is about having a deep understanding of the plants, the trees, the cycles of nature, the properties of herbs and stones. It's about observing the world around you with curiosity and attentiveness, learning the language of the Greenwood.
So it's like being a student of nature, a lifelong learner.
Exactly. And then the second thread is magical power. This is about understanding how to work with those subtle energies of nature, how to use herbs and stones for healing and transformation,
Yeah.
how to harness the power of the elements.
So this is where the practical side of wortcunning comes in. The rituals, the spells, the charms.
Exactly. And the third thread is folk mysticism. This is about connecting with the spirits of the Greenwood, honoring the old ways, tapping into the wisdom that's been passed down through generations.
So it's about honoring the traditions, the folklore, the stories that connect us to the land and to our ancestors.
Exactly. And when these three threads are woven together, that's when the true magic of wortcunning is revealed. It's about living in harmony with nature, recognizing the sacredness of all things, and using your knowledge and power for good.
This is such a beautiful way of looking at it. It's not just about acquiring knowledge or power for its own sake, but about using it to create a more harmonious and balanced relationship with the world around us.
You're absolutely right, and it's important to remember that wortcunning, it's not a static tradition.
Okay.
It's a living, breathing practice that continues to evolve and adapt.
So it's not about rigidly adhering to a set of rules, but rather about finding what works for you, what resonates with your own unique connection to the Greenwood.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of it. There's no one right way to practice wortcunning.
Right.
It's a path of personal discovery, experimentation,
Right.
and intuition.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of Wortcunning. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective
Yeah.
on the natural world and on the possibilities of magic.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. Remember, the Greenwood is calling. It's up to each of us to answer that call, to step into our own power,
Yeah.
and to rediscover the magic that's within us all.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the world of Wortcunning with us. Until next time, may the spirits of the Greenwood guide your path.